What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rants, hate. So, Frank Warren was being interviewed, and of course, he's talking about, they were talking about the Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury fight. Now, Frank Warren specifically stated there's no need for a rematch, and that's highly unlikely that it will happen. Dillian Whyte offered very little on fight night, and he's disappointed because he expected him to, do more. I wholeheartedly agree that, for one, Dillian Whyte earned his shot. He earned it. Dillian Whyte has been in some good fights, some entertaining fights. Dillian Whyte, as far as I'm concerned, win, lose, or draw, he should have been in that fight. Okay, he earned it. Now, is Tyson Fury on a different level from Dillian Whyte? Well, of course. Of course, you have many fights where a guy earns his shot and then he loses, which is why it looks even worse on Dillian Whyte's behalf. Because, look, people, reality is Dillian Whyte did not leave it all in the ring. He basically looked like he had no answers to get in. He couldn't get around the jab. He showed no footwork whatsoever, no boxing ring IQ. He's basically just standing in front of him, and it looks like he's just hoping that he can land something, and nothing he was doing was working. Now, I've seen a lot of comments where people are saying, oh, Tyson Fury is obviously afraid of Dillian Whyte because he knows that in the rematch, Dillian would beat him, and if he's not afraid, why not give him the rematch? Okay, first of all, this is not like Dillian Whyte had the titles and he got beat, and he's now exercising his rematch clause. If that would have been the case, then Dillian Whyte, Tyson Fury would have to fight him again, or guess what? You're going to be stripped, right? You have to fight. That's contracted, okay? And that goes to show you, like I said about the situation with George Kambosos and Devin Haney, that he has, he made that contract that way, the stipulations that way. He tried to do everything in his power so Devin Haney would reject that fight, and then he'll say he didn't want the fight. I gave him the stipulations, and so he obviously didn't want the fight. Devin Haney surprised him, and they said, "Nah, we'll give you your stipulations." Okay, excuse me. You know that it's always been, when you fight, you're the ace. Okay, you're considering yourself the A side. You have the straps. Okay, so no problem. You're that guy. You have the titles. But it's always been in the rematch, because you won the first fight. Now in the rematch, you're the A side. The ball is in your court. His stipulation states that even if Devin Haney beats him, let's say Haney knocks him out in the first round, the rematch, this fight, first off, the first fight has to take place in Australia. The rematch also has to take place in Australia. And even if he loses and looks terrible in the fight, he gets the lion's share of the purse in the rematch. You know damn well that was all like, I'm hoping he really don't accept this fight. And people made excuses. Oh, but it's a bigger fight with Lomachenko. Listen, Lomachenko was not the beginner or end all of boxing, okay? He's one guy. He's one guy who's already lost a fight and relinquished his title for that crappy franchise championship. That's how Devin Haney has the title that Lomachenko relinquished. Now, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Lomachenko in George Kambosos, but definitely not before Devin Haney. And the reason that people are saying that, deep down inside, they're scared that Devin Haney's going to beat George Kambosos. So it's like, I'd rather see that happen first. Yeah, just in case. They don't want to say that, though. And then now, Devin Haney versus Lomachenko is that fight. And people keep talking about who's not a star, who's not this. Look, people, your stock rise after you win certain fights. You look a certain way. People can talk all this, Devin Haney's not a big puncher. He doesn't have to be the biggest puncher. He's shutting guys out. The guy's winning like every round. Maybe 1 or 2 rounds he might give up out of a 12-round fight. He's dominating. So I don't want to hear that nonsense about, it's a bigger fight and all this nonsense. The right thing to do is what I'm about. Okay, so on that note, looking at what people are talking about, they're acting like Fury owes Dillian Whyte a rematch. Okay, Dillian Whyte, I'm not going to call him a bum. I'm not going to say that Dillian Whyte, like he's overrated. No, he wasn't overrated. He was denied. If he was overrated, they'd have been rushing and pushing to try to get him in there with everybody. That he's that guy. No, basically they were saying that he wasn't good enough to beat Tyson Fury, and it turns out that he wasn't. Like I told you guys, I felt like, of course, he has a puncher's chance if he can get in and get around that jab and attack his body and work his way in. He didn't show that. You know how Mike Tyson had explosive power, but he had great footwork and head movement, right? We know that Dillian doesn't have that. He doesn't have what Joe Frazier had. Dillian Whyte is a basic boxer. And as I stated before, he's a better boxer than he is a brawler. So for him to have to go in there and make a fight ugly and have to do what he has to do, again, there were going to be things that he was going to have to do that we never saw him do. Because even when he fought Derek Chisora, both times, Derek Chisora was the aggressor. Dillian Whyte went into counterpunch mode. And for him to beat Tyson Fury, it's not just any guy. Because listen, like as I stated, Dominic Breazeale is 6'9", but I believe he would have beat Dominic Breazeale because Dominic Breazeale doesn't fight smart. He fights on the inside, and he makes the fight harder for himself. And Dominic Breazeale has paid for it physically. He's finished. If you look at Dominic Breazeale when he fought AJ, first off, he was undefeated at that point. He was lighter on his feet. He was quicker and moved better. And that wear and tear from him standing there taking so much punishment, it caught up with him. Now, as far as Tyson Fury goes, look, we know Tyson Fury's better than Dillian Whyte. I never thought Dillian Whyte was better than him. I felt like Dillian Whyte, the way he talked and I always say if a fighter understands what they have to do, because it's easy to say, I do this, I do that. We didn't see any of that. You got people going, oh man, he ran out of ideas. He didn't try to do anything. Only thing he did was start out the fight as a southpaw. That's all he did. And then that didn't last too long. But he did nothing to get inside. So it doesn't matter if you switch southpaw or if you're standing orthodox. What's happening if you're not doing any work to get in? So I feel like look, Dillian Whyte did what he came, he showed up for the fight. He had to understand, look, man, these people don't even want me here. So I have to go in there and be at my absolute best. I have to make the fight ugly. If it comes to a dog fight, that's what I have to do. I have to, not if it comes to it, I have to make it a dog fight. My best chances of beating this guy is getting into his body, getting around that jab and making him fight. Honestly, I don't even think Dillian Whyte has the gas tank to fight the type of fight that he needed to get in. I don't think he has the gas tank to be as aggressive as he needed to be. And see, this is where the height and the reach, the difference, it comes into play. Because now you have to do more than you normally have to do to get into Tyson Fury. Dillian Whyte looks better with the guy that he doesn't have to look for, that stands there in front of him, that just wants to fight. Because Dillian doesn't show a lot of footwork, but what he'll do is move, walk around, try to reset, buy a little time, get his shots in, get out. So when he's telling you that this fight was 50-50, he was landing his shots as well, and the fight was going, it could have went either way up until that point. That's bull. He got shut out for 6 straight rounds. His performance does not warrant a rematch. Not in any way, shape, or form. And basically, I don't see why, he would even get to the point, and his fan base, and most of it's not even so much him being Dillian Whyte fan. Well, he has fanboys that's making excuses for him, but most of it is people that hate Tyson Fury just making up excuses. So I agree with what Frank Warren is saying, that in that sense that there's no reason for a rematch. Now overall, let's look at this, okay? To say that Dillian Whyte is owed a rematch is completely false. I don't see how he's owed anything. Okay? There would be less value in a rematch. Understand something. This man was denied. Well, he did it to himself because Eddie and AJ offered him a fight, which would have been a rematch, and he turned it down. These guys are not serious. When they serious, they come talk to me. He walked away, and he got punished because after, I forgot what fight. I think it was after the Chisora fight. He was supposed to fight AJ, and he didn't. So he was punished. The WBC, everybody just they crapped all over him. Okay, but let's be real. Okay, in that sense where he had his chance and he blew it, and the fact that he had to scratch and claw and fight his way to get back to that position, he should have understood I have to go into beast mode. So again, the mouth is bigger than the heart a lot of times. And he said that Deontay Wilder was making excuses. He's doing the same thing. He's always talking about what he would have done if he was in there and he'd do this and he'd do that. I come to fight and all that, and okay, but like I always tell you guys, when you are a one-dimensional fighter, you don't have a lot of tricks up your sleeve. It's going to show when you fight a guy who does. And you're stuck in that one speed. Now, to make a comparison as well, right? You fought in front of 94,000 people. That was a very underwhelming fight. People came out, let's not be fooled. I don't agree with Frank Warren or Tyson Fury about that. Oh, they're the reason everybody came out. No, it's because you were fighting Dillian Whyte. Stop with the nonsense, okay? And, Frank Warren is trying to sell Tyson Fury to be the people's champion. He's the voice of the people. Oh, no, stop it. That stuff, that these little monikers and all these people that try to give themselves, and it becomes a little catchphrase and everybody starts saying it. That's what they're trying to do. Now, after what he did to Dillian, does his stock go up in terms of his popularity? And can he be that guy that fights just anybody and in England and the people come out? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. But at the end of the day, after that performance, I doubt 94,000 people would come back out to see a rematch. I don't see why they would. And even if they did, I think Dillian would lose again. Now, let's look at, for example, Jamal Charlo's situation. He's saying he doesn't want to fight Demetrius Andrade because he doesn't see any value in him. Okay, which I think is pure crap. Now, in terms of Demetrius Andrade's popularity and this being like a huge money fight, okay, maybe that's not the case, but let me show you how he debunked his own statement. Demetrius Andrade is getting ready to fight a guy Jamal Charlo is getting ready to fight a guy that Demetrius Andrade already beat. So if you don't see any value in fighting Demetrius Andrade, what value do you see in fighting a guy that he already beat himself and beat convincingly? So how is that a fight that you should take, but you don't want to fight Demetrius Andrade? So that's bullcrap. And if you know me, I've been pushing for the Charlos no matter who they fight. But I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for anybody. Jamal Charlo is on some nonsense right now. And he's been on it for a long time when it comes to Demetrius Andrade. You cannot sit here and say, this guy's not on my level and there's no value in fighting him, but I'm going to fight someone who has even less value that he completely beat and outclassed and I'm going to fight that guy now. So, again, if Dillian Whyte had went in there and went to war, with Tyson Fury, then, then I could see like, okay, that was a great fight. I mean, Sugar Ray Leonard lost to Roberto Duran in their first fight because Sugar Ray fought a completely, wrong strategy. He tried to beat him at his own game, but Sugar Ray had many moments in that fight. He was giving it back to Duran. It just wasn't in his favor. Duran won the fight, yes, but Sugar Ray didn't show up like a sucker and didn't try to go for his. He just basically wrong strategy. Okay. AJ fought Usyk, wrong strategy. He didn't leave it all in the ring, but as bad as AJ looked against Usyk, he looked much better if you compare his performance to Usyk with Whyte's performance against Fury. They didn't leave it in the ring. Deontay Wilder was knocked out by Fury, but he left it all in the ring. And that's why people who really couldn't stand Wilder said he earned my respect because he went there and left it in the ring. He didn't go in there and bitch up. He tried to take Fury out, and that's the only thing he knows how to do is go for the knockout. But he went for it and he tried, and the better man won. It's as simple as that. So you don't just get a rematch because you say you want a rematch, and then when you're talking like that, that will cause people to walk away from you. Like, man, this guy's crazy. For you to sit and tell us that that fight was 50-50 up until the knockout, and you're still pushing this illegal tactic nonsense, and then I don't know if you guys saw it, but if this was legit, that there was a video of Dillian Whyte laughing, smiling, playing around in the music in the car, blasting music, dancing, and just acting like a goofball. And I'm saying, okay, if he's cool, he's not stressing about the loss, fine. You know, life goes on. It's not the end of the world, but it makes you look like you're cracking up under pressure or something. Like, 1 minute you're complaining about Fury's a dirty fighter. We already know what time it is with Fury. And I guess he figured all these Deontay Wilder fans and everybody else that has been pushing that narrative about Fury being dirty will start to get behind him. I don't know if he think that's going to help him get a rematch, but I doubt that it will. I certainly wouldn't want to see a rematch. I just don't think Whyte will ever be able to beat Tyson Fury, unless Father Time catches up with him faster than he catches up with Dillian. So, no, I'm not one of the guys saying Dillian Whyte's a bum. Oh, no. And he's overrated. No, like I said, he wasn't overrated. I already knew what I saw as far as how I see Dillian and his limitations and how good I think he is versus what everybody else say. But he's been in entertaining fights, and I think Dillian is a good fighter. But yes, he has his limitations. I don't think he's a great fighter, but at the end of the day, what happened happened, and they need to leave that alone. But the excuses that people are making, and all of a sudden people are, Frank Warren's just trying to protect his guy. Yeah, he's going to talk his guy up and make it sound like Tyson Fury is Superman. Of course he's going to do that. But, no, I agree that I don't see a reason for a rematch. I don't see a reason for a rematch. And I don't see the value in that fight being the same. I mean, after seeing that, how could you guys bury Conor Ben, a guy who even, when he's had fights and it's like he should be doing this instead of that? Well, we could say that about most fighters. Every fighter, at some point, they're fighting, no matter how skilled they are. At some point, they have a fight where people are critiquing what they're doing. You criticize Conor Ben, but then you're acting like Tyson Fury did something wrong by beating Dillian Whyte. Like you're making it seem like he owes him something. It's like, no, no. Conor Ben looked impressive in his last fight, and people were saying that the guy he fought, he's a southpaw. He's going to give Conor Ben problems. Conor Ben, he needs to stick to sea level fight. Just the things that they were saying. So it's like, so you 1 minute you're bashing the guy saying he needs to step up and fight better opponents. Then when they do so, you're saying that they shouldn't do it. They're not ready. Like, people just run their mouth. So, I'm not caught up into this internet wave where people are talking and they're not talking from experience. They're just talking off, hatred, ignorance, and fanboyism. Dillian Whyte, you've given some good fights. I think you still got some fight in you. I still think there's guys that you could beat, but I also think that there's guys that they're studying you. They've seen the weaknesses that you have, and they know that, no, you don't have to beat Tyson Fury to beat Dillian Whyte. And people seem to forget, like people talking about Tyson Fury just make people look like that. He's just that great. This guy's not a human. Oh, no, he's human. He beat Dillian Whyte with a basic fucking jab, 1-2, jab, single body shot, move, jab, hook to the head. Basic shit. Like people say, he didn't even break a sweat. It was one of the easiest fights he had in front of the biggest crowd he's ever fought in front of a massive 94,000 people, a fight with 94,000 people, and this was the easiest fight. I've never seen a fight look so easy. Although Wallin did way better against Fury, and people will say, yeah, but he was in better shape than he was against Whyte than he was with Wallin. Look, although Wallin did way better than Whyte did, and like I said, although Wallin cut him, was getting to him, so Whyte should be able to do the same things. And it's what I'm saying. It shows you the limitations in Dillian Whyte. So go back to the drawing board. Like I said, he looks better against guys. You can see that in his style. If you don't have a jab, if you don't have movement, and you stand right in front of Dillian Whyte, and there's nothing special about your speed, even if you can punch, he's okay. So even for the guy saying that Whyte, that theory just make you look like that and you'll fit, you make it sound like this was the first loss he had, and it was all due to Fury. You guys forget AJ knocked him out with that same uppercut. Povetkin knocked him out with that same uppercut. He was dropped by Joseph Park. Like people don't, you guys are not understanding. Even though he's a good fighter, to me, let me say this: Dillian Whyte, in my opinion, is cut from the same cloth. He's a little bit better version of Derek Chisora. That's what Dillian Whyte is to me. Dillian Whyte is a tough guy. He comes to fight, but he's a hard fighter. Put it like that. He's fight, but I don't think he has a good chin. I'll say that to the day that they put me in a pine box. He doesn't have a good chin, and at the end of the day, with Dillian, he can avoid certain shots, and I'm not saying he can't take a decent punch, but he just doesn't have a good chin. And if you look at it, every time he gets dropped, it's just one punch that drops him. It's not combinations, it's just one punch and he's down. So, I think Dillian needs to, fight guys, hey, fight a Daniel Dubois. Fight FA. Fight guys like that. Fight guys that you can get your confidence back, because he can say what he wants to say, and he can try to trick himself to make himself believe that he was in that fight. He was not in that fight. You need to fight guys like that. That even though they're not the best fighters, they do have a name. Daniel Dubois has a belt. Trevor Bryant has a belt. Go fight those guys. He brought Trevor Bryant's name up as well. He had a good fight with Oscar Rivas. I don't know what happened to Oscar Rivas, but he fight guys that are rugged, that are tough, that do come to fight. Get yourself back on track. Keep yourself in a position where somebody will call you out for a title shot. Somebody will, a top guy. Basically, listen. Dillian Whyte, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. It's been those guys for the longest. But you got guys like Joe Joyce. You got the Daniel Dubois of the world. I would stay away from Frank Sanchez, though. If I was Dillian, if I was his, I would keep him far away from Frank Sanchez right now. If that ends up being a title fight or something like that, one thing. But I think Frank Sanchez will destroy Dillian Whyte. I think he's just too good of a boxer, man. I think he's just too slick, too smart, and he would exploit Dillian's slow feet, his slow hands, and his lack of footwork. I think that guy, Frank Sanchez. I see people not really, he's people like that. Oh, he hasn't proven anything. He shows his ability to box. He shows his skills. He's fighting who they're putting in front of him. And if the top guys don't want to fight him, then hey, you got to make a name somehow. The guy is impressive. They're like, look at his last fight. You guys are always trying to find a way to try to crap all over a fighter, man. But at the end of the day, we need some fresh blood in the heavyweight division. Frank Sanchez, I'm looking at this guy. I see the potential in him. And I think that, honestly, he'll beat Dillian Whyte right now. I think Frank Sanchez would upset several people right now. That guy is a solid boxer, man. And the guy can fight, man. So, and when you're fighting someone that's just trying to survive and not really committing to anything, yeah, of course you're going to not look your best. Anyways, no, we're not going to crap on Dillian Whyte. He's a garbage fighter. I don't think he's overrated. Like I said, I think maybe the fanboys overrates him. I'll say that. But as far as boxing councils and all of this, and fighters just no. And I think some of the fighters, Tony Bellew, for example, he's Dillian Whyte's a problem for anybody, and then yet the same people will say, well, styles make fight. Yeah, we know styles make fights and all that, but when you're a professional fighter, when you're a great fighter, you will be able to make adjustments. So even if you lose the fight, I mean, look at how small Holyfield was to these big ass heavyweights, and he went in there and was giving these guys hell. I mean, fucking Lennox Lewis is like 6'5", 6'6", what is he, 245, 250? Riddick Bowe, George Foreman, these big guys, Michael Moore, these guys, he went in there and fought. And this guy went in there and he gave them all hell. He beat all of them with the exception of Lennox Lewis. But he gave Lennox Lewis good fights. We know that that first fight wasn't a draw, that Lennox Lewis really won. He won the rematch and all that. Well, they got the decision right in the rematch. Let's put it that way, because he won the first one too, as far as I'm concerned. But Holyfield was in that fight. He lost the fight, but he was fighting back. He didn't go in there and embarrass himself, man. And this was a Holyfield that was no longer in his prime. So, but he was still good enough to put on solid performances. And when you are going to look at a guy like Dillian and look at all of what he's been through, he knows it's going to be like an uphill climb to get back to even, being considered. So you go in there and look at impressive against guys that they're up and coming, but they're good. They have solid competition. Guys like Joe Joyce, time is ticking because Joe Joyce is like 36 already. Time is ticking. These guys don't have forever, man. So we'll just see how things play out. Anyway, never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people, and I will catch y'all on the next video.